Chag Sameach to everyone. I'm going to share three very quick ideas, beautiful ideas, on the four sons. The Haggadah introduces the four sons with the line of Keneged Arba Banim Dibra Torah, that the Torah speaks to, or it parallels, or it speaks to the opposite of the four sons. Keneged Arba Banim Dibra Torah. So what in the world does the word Keneged, what does that connote? What does that mean? How is the Torah parallel, or how is it opposite? How does it speak to the four sons? So the Beis Halevi, who was the great-grandfather of Rav Soloveitchik, had the same name, Rav Yosef Dov Halevi Soloveitchik. So he suggests that there is this special, this uniqueness, this magic to Torah that doesn't appear or is not embedded in general wisdom. It doesn't share it with other disciplines. What do I mean? I mean that if you're learning physics, or you're learning biology, or you're learning history, or you're just reading, right? There's usually, in terms of every discipline, there's a beginning, there's a beginner's track, there's an intermediate track, as well as an advanced track. There's a beginner's textbook, an intermediate textbook, and then advanced, there's college level and PhD level textbooks. But the Torah, by contrast, is very, very different. It affords all levels of learning equal opportunity. We give out chumashim in first grade, we give out chumashim in second grade. That chumash that the second graders learn, that Rashi that a third grader learns, Rabbi Muskin learns that Rashi. Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky learns that. When you read a Rambam, whether you're reading a Rambam or you're reading a Gemara in 8th grade, or you're reading it as a 75-year-old, wonderful Talmid Chacham, it's the same idea. It's the same Torah. We don't water it down. We don't compromise. We don't alter it. The same Rashi that's learned by the youngest children is the same Rashi that's learned by the eldest. So it's keneged each type of person, each type of kid. Torah speaks to the Chacham. It speaks to the Rasha. It speaks to the Tam, and it speaks to the She'eno Yodea Lishol. Yes, everyone's going to understand the idea at his or her own level, but it's not different. It's not changed. We don't alter it. There's not different levels. Torah, everyone has access to Torah, and we're going to speak to the Chacham. We're going to give a Torah message to the Chacham, and we're going to give a Torah message to a Rasha, to the Tam, as well as to the She'eno Yodea Lishol. There is another explanation. We usually look at it as the four sons as four different children, or four different prototypes of types of children that we have, right? We have the Tam, we have the Chacham, we have the Rasha, we have the Tam, and the She'enu Yodea Lishol. However, many explain that really each one of us comprises each of the four attributes, or each of the four midos, right? All of us have things that we are wise about. Things that we find strengths, that are strengths to us. We have wisdom, we have intellect, we're knowledgeable about some area of life, or some area of Torah. Then there's another component to us, there's another aspect to each and every one that's a bit devilish, that's a bit adversarial, that's a bit rebellious, right? Then there's another, the Tamid, that we're simple, wholesome, maybe parv, that we don't really stand out. It's just, we're not even keeled, but we're basic, we're simple in that area. And finally, there's something that we're completely ignorant. We're ignorant, we're unknowledgeable about it. So the Haggadah comes and says that the night of Tesvav Nisan, Seder night, needs to address each and every aspect that we are comprised of. The Chacham, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to share, to teach, to share those things that we know, things that we're knowledge about. We have to, each and every single one of us has to be a Chacham at the Seder and be the teacher at the Seder. Then there's the devilish rebellious aspect of us. We have to ask questions, we have to debate, we have to challenge appropriately, because that's how we learn. And there has to be a give and take at the Seder. That's the Rasha in us, asking a question, challenging someone's answer, and engaging in appropriate debate and dialogue. Then there are things that were just a tam. There's a tamimistic, right? Those things we need to have a bren. We need to light a fire. We need to have some enthusiasm, some hislavus needs to be added to that aspect of ourselves. For whatever reason, Dayenu doesn't speak to me so much, or Manishtara, but I have to find the flame. I have to kindle that flame. I have to find the fire that is going to that's now going to speak to me. And then there's a She'enu Yodea Lishol aspect, right? We were unknowledgeable, we're ignorant. but we need to make sure. Everyone needs to make sure that we walk away from the Seder having learned something new, something that, oh, you know what? I never knew that before. Thank you so much. I learned that. I could check that off. I learned something at my Seder. Idea number 3 is from Rav Usher Weiss's Haggadah. We usually say that there's a Chacham and a Rasha and they're opposites. And that's how we usually present it. Often we present that at the Seder, that they are opposites. However, that's not true. What's the opposite of a Rasha? Not a Chacham, but a Tzaddik. And what's probably the opposite of a Chacham? A Tipesh, a fool, someone who knows absolutely nothing. Rasha writes, they're not. The Chacham is a wise person, he's an intellectual, and the Rasha is evil, he's the bad son. So he says something very, very important. Why is the Chacham? Why is he a Chacham? Why is he not a Tzaddik? What's he missing? What's he lacking? So he says beautifully, he's too academic. The way he asks his questions, he divides the mitzvos into categories. Ma'edus, v'chuki, v'mishpatim. He's thinking only analytically. He's not thinking with his heart at all. He's too academic. He's too intellectual, but he doesn't have the fire. He's thinking with his head, not his heart, and that's why he's not a tzaddik. Right? It's all up in his head. It's all there, right? In the university, in the Beis Medrash. But it doesn't. It's not actualizing into his leiv, into his heart. So therefore, he's only a chacham. He's not a tzaddik. Everything that we do at the Seder should not only be that we're learning it. Should not only be with intellectual curiosity, but intellectual. But it's not an intellectual pursuit. It also should make its way down to our kishkas. We should feel it, and we should have much more enthusiasm and excitement from the night of the Seder. Chag Kosher V'Sameach.